All right. Thank you for reminding me. I really want to look at this. The warrior ascendancies. I was looking at them yesterday. I don't know if I'm going to look at all of these because I mean, I'm interested, but I primarily only really care about the warrior ones. So they came out with a post yesterday and said at the start of early access in Path of Exile 2, each of the 6 character classes will have 2 ascendancy classes available to help you choose your path. We're revealing all 12 ascendancies in this news post. They both look pretty good. I'm going to start with the one that I am probably most likely going to play, which is the Titan. So I kind of like zoom in on this a little bit. Zoom in on this a bit. Here we go. So you guys can see that all right? Yeah, there we go. That's better. Okay, so you start here, right? And if you guys don't know how Path of Exile works, whenever you complete an Ascendancy trial, which are going to be different than PoE 1 Ascendancy trials now, it's going to be like, you have to do some sort of like endgame, like special dungeon, basically. There's a couple different options that you have. Shouldn't be anything too crazy, it's just how it works now. You get 2 Ascendancy points, right? So you can get one of these little guys, and then one of these big guys. I don't think they're showing us what the little guys are. But, yeah, so you can pick, essentially, at the end of it all, 4 of these nodes, right? But some of them, you have to, in order to access this one, you have to go through this one. In order to access this one, you have to go through this one, for example. This is going to be for Titan. So, Warrior is a class that seems to me to be kind of like a durable, melee, brawl and bruiser kind of dude, which is exactly what I'm into. The Titan in particular seems very slammy and very stunny, and I'm super down with that. We can read through the options, right? So Stone Skin, you get 50% more armor from equipped body armor, and we have yet to see like how much armor matters, right? Because I think there was a Juggernaut Ascendancy that gave you double armor from your equipped body armor, so 50% more armor doesn't sound quite as good, right? But maybe it's actually still insane. Maybe like its power is equal or greater than before, or it could be worse. We'll see. We'll see. But then you have Earthbreaker, so that's 1, right? So you have a little point, and then you can go to Stone Skin, which is just you get more armor. There's nothing really that branches off of it, but it's an easy access thing. Earthbreaker is 20% chance for slam skills you use yourself, not totems, not ancestors or whatever. 20% chance for slam skills you use yourself to cause aftershocks. Aftershocks being bursts of area damage that occur after the initial impact of the skill causing them. If not otherwise specified, the aftershock will deal the same damage as the initial impact in the same area. That's insane, right? Because if you're juicing up like omega, like big damage slams in a big area, and then they just go off again, like on stunned enemies, perhaps, it's going to be insane. That's going to be awesome. So for me, that is definitely one I want to pick. And then 3 is the one that comes after that, which is Ancestral Empowerment. Every second slam you use yourself is ancestrally boosted. Ancestral boost being, an ancestrally boosted skill has 20% more damage and AoE. So you're causing giga damage slams that have a chance to aftershock. So 100%, I'm doing that. I don't know if I'm picking that 100% first, but I think I might be picking that 100% first. And then we're gonna go here. So I definitely want the aftershocks, because that sounds insane. Because even from my playing just a little bit of the early access, you were like, your gameplay is like, set down your earthquake, like, you know, you're doing your little flip slam to detonate the earthquake. You're casting earthquake, throwing out your totem, and then casting earthquake. The totem goes off and does a shockwave, which activates your earthquake. The whole screen is just exploding with these big meaty slams constantly. And then have them be doing more damage. Every other slam is going to do more damage, and sometimes they just echo. Like, it's gonna be so sick. Some utility here is Colossal Capacity. Carry a chest which adds 20 inventory slots. I'm not so sure about that. Like, giving up so much character power just for extra inventory space, I'm not sure. Like, if it was like Diablo 2 and you could have charms that like stuck in your inventory, and so you could have way more charms. That'd be pretty cool, but I don't think it works that way. It seems to me that it's just for farming. So I don't really know how that scales or how that's good besides just like not going back to town. So I'm not really sure about that. But regardless, that goes into hulking form, which is 50% increased effect of small passive skills. And most of the skills that you're taking on the tree are travel nodes that are small passives. Now, what could be absolutely bonkers for this is that like all that stuff is going to add up tremendously, right? Including your stat ones. So like strength gives you like melee damage, at least it used to in PoE1, but it also gives you HP. It also gives you just health, gives you life. So if you're using hulking form, you're getting a tremendous amount of life, potentially, if I'm understanding this correctly, in addition to all this little stuff like extra melee damage, reduced damage, like extra armor, like resistance, all this kind of stuff is going to add up like crazy. So like this is kind of not insane, but this is potentially very insane, especially if you combined it with like mysterious lineage, which is 15% more max life, including all the little strength nodes you get along the way. So there's definitely something there. It's just not as like, you have to like see how powerful it is once you get in the game. Maybe try it out, but that's interesting. Colossal capacity is kind of like a mandatory bonus that you get on the way to hulking form. So interesting. Anyway, mysterious lineage is 8, but it's all the way down here all by itself, so you can get max life. What's neat about this is you could go for one of the offensive things, or you could go for all the utility, right? And then you could go for the extra armor, extra life, and then just utility and extra, and then you'll have like a bunch of armor and life from all the little nodes. And so that's kind of interesting. But I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take a look at this 6 and 7 right here. So 6 is on the way to 7. It's crushing impact. Your hits are crushing blows. Every hit that you do is a crushing blow, right? And a crushing blows are, they cause a heavy stun on enemies that are primed for stun. So you gotta read these two things. So a heavy stun is hitting an enemy, builds towards a heavy stun based on the damage dealt. So if you look at some of my gameplay from Path of Exile, so this guy, he's building towards a heavy stun right here. He's heavy stunned right now, and then it goes down, right? And then on all the little mobs, you'll see they have like a little stun meter on them. So they're in this situation, they are primed for stun, right? When they have that little indicator on them, they're primed for stun, if my understanding is correct, right? So you'll see normal enemies are primed for stun when they have at least 40% heavy stun buildup, and then magic enemies are primed at 60%, rare at 70%, and unique at 80%. So once they get to that point of being primed for stun, you can do an attack that will stun them. Right? So like he's juiced up, he's primed. You see that little icon on his head? That means he just killed me, but he is currently primed for stun when that little icon goes on their head. So then hitting an enemy builds towards heavy stun based on the damage dealt. Different enemies have different heavy stun thresholds and durations, with very large monsters having a high stun threshold. Players can be heavy stunned. While an enemy is heavy stunned, they cannot act and count as immobilized. Physical damage and melee damage each cause 50% more heavy stun buildup. These bonuses are multiplicative with each other. So what it means is you don't have to use a special ability to actually cause them to be stunned and dazed when they're primed for stun. All your hits will stun them, right? So your gigantic Giga Slams will just be stunning enemies without you having to do anything special, right? So to me, that looks like what I want to play. I want to have these tremendous AoE slams going off, dealing tons of damage, stacking stun threshold or a stun like bar on enemies, and then I want it to automatically activate itself, and they're just going to be stunned, right? That's awesome. And sorry about your face. Big flex for you, man. Pumping us up for the 2 months. Thanks for the Prime, man. But yeah, that's what I'm thinking. If I understand this stuff correctly, it means that these little stuns are just going to go off on enemies, which I think I've spent a while fighting this guy. He was a tough boss. Let's see if I can just find some normal mobs. So, yeah, that guy just got stunned instantly by something. But anyway, that's pretty cool. If I understand correctly, that's how it works. Now, I don't know if enemies just become stunned anyway. Like once, and maybe instead of filling their meter, you stun them earlier on, perhaps? Because I think this guy just sort of gets stunned. Let me look. So he's taking hits. his little stun bar right here is building, and now at this point maybe he would just get stunned instead of I did hit him with Bone Shatter, which I think either heavy stunned him or filled his stun bar, but I was always looking for the Bone Shatter. I'm gonna look again and see if there's any times where I'm not actively using Bone Shatter when it's available. I think I am using Bone Shatter every time. So maybe instead of having a separate attack, it just does it anyway. But if they just get, if it's just a situation where their bar fills instead of you having to hit them with something special, maybe that's not as insane. But I mean, it seems pretty cool, right? But then the other thing is, regardless of that, right, being mandatory, whether or not you have to have your hits be crushing blows, the thing that's crazy is that you go to 7, right? And 7 is 40% more damage against heavy stunned enemies, right? So you're not gonna have to go out of your way to fill these guys' stun bar, and if I'm understanding correctly, it makes their stun bar activate way higher, right? So you're gonna stun enemies that are like 40% stun barred, right? Or 60%, 70%, 80% stun barred. So it sends them into this like woozy, don't do anything phase, and they take 40% more damage from this, right? So you're gonna be doing big damn, and this helps you get to that place. But there's an attack called I don't know if I'll be able to find it. I know I looked at it in part 1, but it's like it's called Perfect Strike or something like that. It's just like huge hit. So if you're like heavy stunning enemies and they're taking 40% more damage, and like let's say an aftershock is going off at the same time, like you stun them you build up their stun meter, they get stunned because you have all of your hits are crushing blows, which can heavy stun somebody. Then you charge up your big perfect strike and just unleash a giga damage like heavy slash on somebody. Are you kidding me, man? That sounds so insane. So there's a lot of room for some defensive talents, right? Like obviously Stone Skin is defense. Mysterious Lineage is a bunch of extra health. Hulking Form is like a bunch of like combo offense and defense, which is all good, right? I am probably just gonna go for 2-3. We're gonna go for Earthbreaker, my slams doing an echo of themselves, and then making every second slam skill be giga damage, giga AoE, which potentially gets mirrored, right? Which was insane. And then I'm going to probably just go ahead and make all of my hits crushing blows so that everything gets stunned a little bit more easily. So what I was saying was, you have some options, right? Like these are like hardcore defense, more life, more armor. This right here, Hulking Form, is kind of like an offense and defense because you're just going to get, you know, extra effect of all the small passive skills, right? But what I'm mostly interested in are big slams that are getting boosted, potentially echoed, stunning everything, and then maybe even stunning them earlier than normal, and then setting them up for taking extra omega giga damage from all my hits, or just damage in general against heavy stunned enemies, right? So that means that if a big slam stuns them, it could aftershock and then stun them again, or not stun them again, but just do huge damage the second hit, right? Or I could charge up the big heavy slam, detonate those guys. It'd be insane. But yeah, having to take colossal capacity to get to Hulking Form is tough. Yeah, you're really gonna have to want it, right? You're really gonna have to want it. Yeah. All right. Well, here we go. Now, I think we should have covered all that stuff, right? We got through all of them before the interruption. Yeah, we're looking good. We're looking good, and then of course just more life is cool too. But all right, so that's Titan. I'm pretty much leaning towards Titan. But then there's also Warbringer, which I feel like has a lot more going on, and it's not as obvious of mechanics to me. But we could take a look at it for sure. For sure. Let me quickly boot up this thing too. And we are going to play some WoW if you guys are wondering. I know we just kind of need to talk about some PoE stuff real quick though. We got to. Let me grab this here YouTube window right quick. Drag this over here. There we go. The game we're talking about right now is Path of Exile 2, but we're about to play some WoW. But we have somebody was asking me about the Warrior Ascendancy stuff, and I definitely want to talk about that because this is some really cool stuff. Very excited for PoE 2. So this is Warbringer. Anvil's Weight is the first one. It looks like all of these are, except for 3, are like 2-pointers. Okay, so break armor equal to 10% of hit damage dealt. That is pretty cool. So you're crushing people's armor, and you can break enemies' armor below 0. That's wild. That is very, very cool. Right, so just any... Yeah, any hit damage breaks armor equal to 10%, I guess, of hit damage dealt, which is insane. And then you can Giga Shred armor. That seems wild. That seems very, very cool. And you're also not as stuck on slams. If you want to play that style, you're just breaking the heck out of people's armor, which is cool. And then Jade Heritage. So it grants the skill Encase in Jade, and you gain a stack of Jade every second. And then what happens is you consume all stacks of Jade to grant a buff for a duration that absorbs all damage from hits. Okay, so you don't tank dots. Interesting. Up to a maximum based on the amount of Jade consumed. While encased, you cannot move or perform actions. So like, you can't like ice block a bleed, basically, but you can tank a hit. So that's cool. Answered Call grants skilled Ancestral Spirits, and you trigger Ancestral Spirits when you summon a totem. Each of your totems will summon an Ancestral Spirit minion to fight for you. If the totem that summoned the minion dies, the Ancestral Spirit will die too. So basically, all of your totems summon a minion. That's interesting. There's a little bit of thorns in PoE 2. I haven't seen it be like a big thing, but there is some. There is some. So that's interesting. So your totems summon minions. So double minions, basically. And then 20% of damage from hits, not dots, is taken from your nearest totem's life before you. So you sort of have tankiness from your minions, but you don't have to take this talent, but you can. But this is just another way to just have, like, you press one button, 2 things happen at least, right? You summon a totem, which does its own stuff, and then you summon a minion, which does its own stuff too, I guess, right? And you're going to benefit from minion damage stuff from your totems and your minion, right? I think that's how it works. It's cool. All right, so then we have Renly's training. So this is interesting. You have, like, block stuff from Warrior. You gain 40% base chance to block from equipped shield instead of the shield's value. Okay, so, like, that just gives your block chance 40% base. But then you have Turtle Charm, which gives you 35% less block chance, but you can block damage from all hits without your shield being raised. So it just makes it like a really strong passive block, which is kind of like what Gladiator had, right? Gladiator was like a super good block class. And so no matter what, your shield has a 40% base chance to block. You have 35% less block chance, but you can stack a bunch of block chance on your, like, gear, just not your shield, I guess. And talents, I guess it'd have to be from talents. Interesting. But you can block damage from all hits while shield is not raised. So you just run around and just passively block stuff. And then combined with Wooden Wall, that'd make you pretty tanky. But Wooden Wall is a 2-pointer. You get access to... So if you wanted to go Giga Tank, you'd have to do Wooden Wall and that, but I don't think you're gonna do that. But you could be like tanky without totem reliance and just break armor. You could break armor and block, which would be pretty cool. Or you could do this thing, which is Warcaller's Bellow. Corpses in your presence explode when you Warcry, dealing 25% of their life as physical damage. And then you can also do something which is absolutely insane, which is ignore Warcry cooldowns. So that's wild. This has a lot of interesting stuff going on, and you can, like, mix and match a little bit too, right? Very interesting. So you could just shout. You could just be like a shout barbarian that just blows up corpses around you to deal damage. And your Warcries having no cooldown means that, like, you have all the buffs from Warcries. You might even be able to do damage with Warcries, right? Yeah. And blowing up corpses is also insane. So you could run around just, like, passively blocking everything and just blowing up corpses and Warcrying. Or you could... I love this break armor thing. So if you want to do a hit build, you just break the heck out of their armor and then take other stuff. If you want to do a minion build, then you do the totems, right? You could do totems without the wooden wall. You could do totems with spirits and then explode everything and break armor. But you just can't Giga Shred armor. Or you could do, you could tank Giga hits while shouting and breaking and exploding corpses while summoning totems. You have a lot of really cool options here. What's up, Offworld? Yeah, this is interesting too. This is the situation where I think you have to get in the game and see what's even available, right? But for me, if I was playing a Warbringer, I would probably go Anvil's Weight to Giga Break armor, and then maybe just go for the block stuff. So you Giga Break armor, and you also are a Giga Tank. However, you could also just be like a Berserker that breaks armor like crazy, explodes corpses for the AoE, and ignores Warcry cooldowns, so you could constantly have like a million buffs, just shredding bosses' armor and becoming really tanky, really high damage, and blowing up stuff, which would be really cool too. You got a lot of really neat options. You could also just be a Giga blocking guy that just yells at everybody and kills them by yelling at them while never taking any damage. That's some pretty interesting options. Like, I think that people are gonna do some crazy stuff with this. I really like some of these ideas, right? You get 2 or 3 of the main nodes, you get 4. You get 4. So each time you ascend, you get 2 ascendancy points. So you take a little node and then a big node. Little node and big node. And you're gonna get at a max, like maxed out power character, you're gonna have 4 of the big nodes. So 8 total ascendancy points to work with. So yeah, you can pick like 4 of these. And then you're gonna get like a little bonus along the way, right? So yeah, Warbringer sounds like it has a lot of really cool options. I like what I'm seeing here. Because the tanking stuff is awesome. The 40% base chance to block is interesting. This is kind of cool. Like if you never want to raise your shield, you just want to be like a turtle tank. You just block just because. It'll probably take some investment in block chance. It's not like reduced max block chance. It's just 35 less block chance. So then you just get a bunch of block through other means. And it's not uncommon in PoE 1 to have like 100% block chance. You can't actually use 100% of block chance, but like you will overcap your block to have it apply to like spell block, for example, or something like that, right? And maybe lucky block will be a thing too, right? Where every time there's a roll to did you block this or not, it rolls twice and takes the higher one. So I don't know, it could be crazy. That could be crazy. Thought it was only 2. You're probably going Titan 1, 4, 5, 8 then. 1, 4, 5, 8. 1, so you're gonna have armor. You're gonna have inventory just to get access to the double thing. And 8, yeah, that would be the tankiest option, I think. Is getting extra armor, extra everything bonuses, including defensive and offensive bonuses, and then extra life. Yeah, that would be the tankiest version of that you could make. I'm probably gonna play the most offensive. Gonna go 2, 3, 6, 7. For Warbringer, I would want to play Anvil's Weight and Exploding Impacts because you can do all kinds of interesting stuff, like breaking enemies' armor. There's like a buff that you can take where when you break enemies' armor, you like collect their broken armor shards and give it to yourself, which is cool. So breaking armor is the kind of thing that can do things for you besides just buffing the damage. It's like a mechanic that ends up happening, so that's really cool. This is like a mandatory thing for Warbringer. For me, if I was gonna build Warbringer, I would probably just again do 1, 2, and then like 6, 7. Just it sounds like basic, but I like it. But this Warcaller's Bellow and Great Wolf's Howl combo sounds hilarious. Just like just corpses exploding everywhere. Sounds awesome. Now you need corpses to actually have this be good, but maybe you can. I don't know if there's any corpse generation skills like in PoE 1, but that'd be interesting. That'd be OP, but that'd be interesting. But yeah, you could just like run around with totems and minions and exploding everything. That'd be kind of fun too, right? But I'd probably go. I'd probably just start off like pretty cut and dry basic, just shred armor, giga shred armor, and be like a block beast. So just always are blocking everything, and then when you do get hit, you'd have some tankiness behind it, of course. Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. The warrior ascendancies look really neat. I really like the looks of these. These look awesome. I'm pretty excited for those. But we'll be taking a look at what's the option. There's also gonna be a third ascendancy somewhere. That seems insane. These are the warrior ascendancies. I like the looks of both of them. Still probably leaning towards Titan, just because I like the way the slams look and feel. But if I start playing the game and I'm like, wow, I really like this ability, but it's not a slam, then maybe you can start leaning into something else. Because shredding armor and blocking like crazy also seems awesome. Being a very tanky character that just kind of sticks to an enemy, like a bossing character that giga shreds a boss's armor, benefits from the event of armor being broken, and just blocking like crazy. Being a tank seems awesome to me too. I just don't know where your AoE would come from in this kind of build, but AoE definitely, I can see where AoE is gonna come from in this build. And single target. Just crushing the heck out of bosses with slams and then like getting them stunned and unleashing a giga attack on them sounds awesome. So I think in Titan for sure. But anyway, that's the 2 warrior ascendancies. We could do some more work looking at the other ascendancies if you guys want to, but I do want to play a little bit of WoW. But yeah, once it's PoE time, it's PoE time. We're going in, and I don't want to, you know, like know everything about the game going into it, but I mean, you can absorb as much information as available, and there's still going to be just a ton to learn. That's going to be a lot of fun. But either way, that is looking good.